When there's no more room in hell, the dead will listen to Bloodfest, the podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to Bloodfest, the podcast. I'm your host, Nate. Y'all know me, know what I do for a living. I'm joined tonight, as always, by my good friend, Casey. Casey, how's it going tonight?
Good. I'm happy to be here. Excited to talk to Harley about some of his films.
Outstanding. Also, joining us live via satellite from the magical land of Kansas City is Josh. Josh, say something good.
Good. Crap, I screwed it up again.
Always joining me, and as always off camera, is our director and all-around mojo haver, Joey. Joey, how's it going tonight?
I'm fanboying tonight. I'm excited because Harley, I know you worked with my boy, my favorite actor, one of my favorite actors, Sean Whalen, and absolutely love him. So I'm so happy to have you on.
Joey's been stalking Sean Whalen for the last few years.
I've talked to him off and on through messages and stuff, and I love him.
So we're very excited to bring on a special guest, Mr. Harley Wallen. Harley is a well-known writer, director, actor, fight coordinator, just about everything you can imagine in the movie industry. His most recent film, Ash and Bone, is one we all just got done watching and we're going to be excited to talk about. Also known for a TV show called Tale of Tales, Agramon's Gate, upcoming Beneath Us All and Finding Nicole, and dozens more. So Harley, thanks for being here. How you doing tonight?
I'm great, Nate. This is fun. I'm excited to be here. And guess what? I'm also a big fan of Sean Whalen, so that makes two of us.
Yeah, we've loved Sean since going back to People Under the Stairs. Like when we were kids, I think we all liked him then. So yeah, and Joey's just absolutely obsessed with the poor guy.
I'm very obsessed with him. I love him. I've talked to him off and on through chat, and he's incredibly nice.
So, yeah, he is.
And it's funny because I watched a lot of his lives, and he's talked about Finding Nicole and how that role was just so different from any other role, and that's what drew him to it. And I later on, I'd love to get your take on working with Sean and his performance in that role coming up in that movie.
I'd love to, because I'll tell you, like, Sean is an actor's actor. When you think, I don't know how well versed you guys are, but like, first thing that you do, usually you get your acting coach, you start class or whatever, and the first book you buy is called An Actor Prepares, and that is Sean. Sean is an actor prepares. He is like, he's a special breed. Probably in between talent and work ethic and just the what he gives to the character, might be my number one person I've ever worked across from when it comes to acting. Just seeing his process, he's fantastic. His wife said when we saw Beneath Us All at the special screening, she said it was the first time she didn't see Sean.
Oh, wow.
She saw the character, and that's pretty cool accolades coming from his wife.
Yeah.
Now, if I understand,
he's fantastic.
In Finding Nicole, doesn't he play like an abusive drunk, so to speak?
No, in Finding Nicole, he plays the defense attorney who defends. He defends the violent, the domestic violence abuse.
Oh, okay. So he plays the attorney.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So Harley, I wanted to ask you on background here. You got started in martial arts, and that's kind of what led you into the movie industry. Can you tell us how that move from being a martial artist into making movies, how that happened for you?
Yeah, it was kind of a two-pronged thing. So I started in martial arts when I was 7, but to go even before that, my mom swears that when I was 5 years old, we were watching Tarzan, and I stopped in the middle of the movie, stood up, and said, "I'm moving to America when I grow up, and I'm going to be a movie star." and everybody just laughed. And then, at 24, I jumped across the Atlantic to pursue this thing. And, there's been some stuff that sidetracked me, but the first thing that got me into the film industry or showbiz, whatever you want to call it, was I was a breakdancer, and I got on a cult TV show that was like a cabaret style show called Solstolarna in Sweden. And we had musical guests each week, and we were there to be entertainment pretty much when they were singing, and when they moved sets, we would do some stuff. But instead of bringing in actors for, one-liners, two-liners, and that kind of stuff, they often came and asked us, and they were like, hey, do you guys want to do a one-liner and go buy suntanning lotion at the store? And I was always intrigued by it. And then you start hanging out with actors, and then you start finding out about methods, and all of a sudden you get so intrigued by it, you can't stop yourself. So that was kind of my way of getting in. And virtually at the same time, I ended up in a bit of trouble. We got into a big old fight, and we ended up having to make a youth against violence film as our punishment for getting into this big fight at the community center. So those two are the ways that I guess I landed in this, one via fighting and one via breakdancing.
Okay, I've just got to say, so you were a breakdancer that got into a little trouble fighting at the community center and had to make a movie about it. That would be an 80s movie, honestly.
It should be, right?
I can picture that. So
it's Electric Boogaloo 3.
Yeah, exactly. So when you first came to the U.S. and got into pictures, so did you start doing the fight coordination and stunt stuff, or did you get right into acting when you got here?
So I tried breaking in, but it was one of them things that I never realized how many people there are over here. So when you go to an audition in Sweden, there's 22 other people, and you kind of stand out because there's only 10 million people in the whole country. So then I remember one of my very first auditions here was at Tribeca, and I'm walking in, and I look around the room, and I'm like, there's 30 people that look kind of like me. So how do you stand out here is you just have to elevate your game to get on that level. So that was kind of how it went, but it was by audition. I did some stuff on Kung Fu The Legend Continues up in Toronto. I did some commercials and those type of things, a few independent films here in Michigan, a couple of things in New York, and then I got sidetracked with my fight career, got sidetracked with family, and put all of this stuff on the back burner because you can only juggle so many things. And then when I retired from fighting, I just knew I had to have some kind of outlet. So, about probably 10 years ago, I started going back into acting again and started pursuing all those things more as a hobby. And then they started taking off.
So how'd you decide to make the move into writing, directing, producing, that kind of thing?
It's funny because my reasoning is probably the reason a lot of people quit. We had really good film incentives in Michigan, and then they stopped doing them. And we had a pretty awful indie community at the time, with very little that came out of here that was of any quality at all. So it actually started with me saying, you know what, I'm the kind of guy who pays attention. So I've been watching, on set. I watch what the director does. I watch what these people do. I started thinking I could probably figure out how to do this. So me and my friend Walbert, after they pulled the incentives, decided we were going to make a short film. And you realize how much goes into making a film in the first place. So made the first short film. I, after that, realized that I was nowhere near equipped to do this, and found out that film school takes way too long. So I've had to figure out how to do this quicker. And there's a thing called Rocket Jump out there that's essentially an online film school where you can study at your own pace. and that was phenomenal for me. And then you start digging, and there's Studio Binder and master classes and everything else. So that's kind of been what I've been doing ever since. Writing has always been a passion of mine. It's almost a stress relief, in all honesty. I go in to do this, and I just sit and I go in a bubble and I just write and write and write. But I grew up with that. I read Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Wes Craven. That was what I was living on as a teen and through my 20s.
Yeah. So, a lot of your movies, I noticed there's overlapping casts. You have a lot of actors that you like to work with a lot. So I don't know if you know Mark Savage. He's a filmmaker from Australia. Most recent film of his is Bring Him Back Dead, I think. Made a great movie called Purgatory Road that I'm a big fan of. I talked to Mark quite a bit, and he has told me in the past that the way he looks at it is casting is more than half of the job of making the movie. And I was wondering if you kind of see it that way, and that's why you like to use the same actors, because you know you can trust them and you feel like that takes a lot of weight off you as the director.
Well, definitely. I mean, I heard it from Tarantino said casting is 90%. Joe Kosinski said it's 80%, and I don't know if it's quite that high, but it's definitely up there, because that's the whole thing. Can they get the point across? Can they hit the arc? Can I trust them to do their due diligence, to prep and come to table reads and do all the things that it takes to make a film? So I definitely like knowing what I have. So that's a big part of it. Also, being in Michigan and flying in name talent makes sense, but everything else has to be local hires, just from a cost perspective. So at some point, there's only so many people that are at the level that we're trying to be at. So I guess that's probably the big thing, is finding people that can hit the ground running at our level. Especially now that we don't have incentives in Michigan. A lot of people have moved to New Orleans and Atlanta and everywhere around. So even Ohio has pretty nice incentives right now.
I did not know that about Ohio. I know New Orleans really does, and I know Atlanta is just becoming like the new Hollywood at this point.
Yeah,
everybody's down there. I've got a buddy that's in. He does prop design and stuff.
Yeah.
And he used to be in LA, but he's been in Atlanta for the last probably 10 years, and he just works constantly there. And no need to travel. When he lived in LA, he was traveling a lot because movies would be filmed in other places, and now he can just stay at home and work there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. Very few movies are made in and around LA anymore. I just looked up some of the permits because we were talking about shooting a film that was going to be split, and I was like, nope, we'll pretend we're in LA and get some other location that can pass for it. But you'd be better off, going somewhere else and shooting with palm trees and a similar type of setting. I wouldn't do it either, because it's too expensive.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask about the most recent film of yours that we've seen is Ash and Bone. And so a lot of your films lean toward the action, I feel like. Quite a few of the ones I've seen are very action heavy. And Ash and Bone feels more horror, more direct horror. Yeah. And I was wondering if, first of all, where'd that come from? Was that brought to you, that story brought to you, or was it something that you had wanted to do? And do you feel like you want to lean more into the horror genre?
So I think I probably spend most of my time in the thriller realm, but more like psychological thriller or action thriller. So absolutely. As far as horror goes, I'm a huge fan, and like I said, I grew up on all the greats. So for me, I was very careful getting into horror because I know the audience, and I also know that I don't want to do everything the way everybody else has done them. Like, I've had a lot of people talk about Ash and Bone. I'm sure we'll get into this, but there have been people saying, why didn't you go for more gore? Why didn't you do more of this? And And the answer to that is because it's been made 1,000 times that way. That film has been made like that 1,000 times. It's called Wrong Turn. It's called The Hills Have Eyes. It's called there's a million of them. So I wanted to do it differently, but I was very cautious in getting into horror. So me getting into horror, I kind of did it by tipping my cap to my inspiration. So Agramon's Gate was my first step in this direction, and it's a supernatural thriller. And they've labeled it horror in a lot of places, which I would not agree with, even though it has aspects of it.
It felt, it felt, it's definitely horror adjacent. I felt like Agramon's
Yes.
was horror adjacent. I think what I said to someone after I watched it a few years ago was, will people never learn seances are a bad idea? Doing this.
They never do. But that one was the tip of the cap to a lot of the supernatural stuff that I grew up on, whether it's The Exorcist or Poltergeist or that type of films that I just found those character actors. I played one in that. I played Zeb with a bald head and a dead eye, and we had a whole long backstory about how we tried to take a demon out of my girlfriend when we were younger. The girl Vesna, that with the dreads, the fortune teller. So that was our first attempt, and that was the tip of the cap to the supernatural. With Ash and Bone, we wanted to do a tip of the cap to, funny enough, the early 2000 remakes. Because for some reason they hit me differently, because that was when special effects first started becoming possible, so you could actually show the gore of what happened. So the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, the Wrong Turn films were in that time period. The Hills Have Eyes. House of Wax.
House of Wax.
Exactly. So that was what we wanted to do, but we wanted to not just straight up do them. So we said, how about we just storytell this and make this about the human relations instead? And we're going to make this about a family, falling apart at the seam, and then through overcoming, finding their way to hopefully something better, but probably not.
So in this movie, so don't take this wrong. I don't want to sound wrong, but when we look at your headshot, you look at him, and Joey said, "Oh crap, that's a guy that could kick my ass."
I have to say, when I saw your picture, I was very intimidated.
Joey's like, "Oh."
I was like, "You're scary.
This guy'll hurt me." So, but then in Ash and Bone, you play this affable dad guy who just seems so exasperated and just so tired in part of it. Just like, oh God, why is this teen daughter doing this to me anymore? Do you like playing as a big guy, an imposing guy? Do you like playing that more less physical but more character?
No, not really. I think this one really just called for it. I remember when Brett Miller wrote the script, and when we originally talked about it, it was really funny because I said it would be funny to do something where me and my wife play husband and wife, because we've never played that ever across from each other. And I thought that we wanted to, again, give that nod to some of those earlier films, and we wanted that broken family relationship. And the stereotype is you have this dominant Christian father who walks around with a cross, and it just whips everybody into shape. And that's why the kids rebel. But there's another side of why kids rebel, and it is lack of direction, lack of initiative, lack of all of those things. So with Ash and Bone, we wanted my character to be that guy who just fumbles everything because he never makes a decision and he never stands up for anything, and things just happen to him because he refuses to grab the bull by the horns and take charge. So he's very, very opposite me, but that was what I think it called for. So that's why we played it out that way, because we wanted to do it not the stereotype Christian dad and the Bible in his hand, and so that was our inspiration, is to show that enabling can also lead to rebellion. It's just a different way. She's really trying to shake him back into giving a damn properly about the things around him, because he is so afraid to take a step in any direction because it could be the wrong step. He doesn't step anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, what is that called? Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
That's what he has.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Paralysis by analysis. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up. I was that scene where your character is sexually assaulted. I was just like screaming I'm like, why are you not fighting back? And
you got to remember who he is.
You're right. It makes perfect sense. So
yeah.
But that was also that's a scene you don't really see told in movies a lot. So that was very commendable. I don't recall ever seeing anything like that, at least not in recent history.
So Pulp Fiction famously has.
Well, yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
Pulp Fiction.
That is the one that inspired me to have this in there. We had a long conversation about, in today's world, is this the right scene? And I said, you know what? As a guy, we see this happen to women all the time, and I don't know if we ever think about what it's like. So, to me, flip the tables. Let's put this psycho woman with a knife on top of this imbecile who can't get off of his ass to do anything.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we wanted to do. We wanted to flip the script and say, what does that feel like? Because I know just from watching it, I feel violated from watching it.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's definitely
it's jarring.
A powerful scene. Yeah. It's a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my next question is, and I wanted to get back to a couple of earlier things. You've worked with some pretty big names. Scout Taylor Compton is one that definitely comes up for me because big Halloween fan, big Rob Zombie fan.
Yeah. What
was she like to work with?
She was literally awesome. And I'm going to give you a quick backstory to this. So Jake Busey was supposed to play that role.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and then they ended up with an accident on set of Stranger Things, and he got extended, and we literally had 10 days to replace him. And I called my good buddy, the Stairmaster, Jan Birch, and I said, hey, man, we have a short window. I want to find somebody good. Who do we know that will come in and lay down a great performance on short notice? And he said, oh, do you want somebody kind of similar, same age, and everything? And I said, you know what? Tell me who you think would give me the best bang for my buck. And he goes, I think Scout. And we connected, and we had to rewrite it a little bit because it was a female that stepped in for a male role, but it played so very well in that movie. I was super happy with her performance. And one thing I never knew is how much spunk she has. She has so much energy. If you watch her performance in Eternal Code, I said, imagine that you get placed to babysit this couple, and you're normally the tech person, so you don't deal with people. And here you get stranded babysitting two needy adults that are driving you crazy while the other two are just out doing the things we need to do because we don't want to deal with the shit either. And that's what she did, and she killed it. She's literally like so memorable in that film.
So she's great in that, and I'm just having, it's almost impossible to picture Busey in that, honestly. Which, I mean,
isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, if he had done it, I'm sure I would feel differently. But she owned that. So I just cannot see that. That's awesome. That really is.
Yeah, super happy little coinkydink. Sometimes the stars line up for some odd reason, and it was just not supposed to happen.
So I was going to ask, what is your favorite of the films you've made?
Oh,
I know it's a mean question. I love doing it.
Man, that's tough. I will say the most fun I've had as an actor is the TV series Tale of Tales. Okay. Because I get to play a guy who is he's just such an asshole. And it's fun because I'm a nice guy, and I always pay attention to how I treat people, and I'm considerate, and I'm a typical Swede when it comes to that stuff. And I play Nick, who owns a strip club, and he's not a nice dude. He just doesn't give a shit about people, and he just feels like he's paid his dues to society, and he should get a lot of money and a bunch of hot women and retire on an island in the Caribbean. That's pretty much his attitude, and it's a stinking human being, but it's a hell of a role to play.
Oh, the bad guys have to be the most fun to play.
Yes.
They really have to be.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and you can see it with a lot of actors. You can see how much fun they're having when they're just playing the worst person in the world. Yeah, if I were an actor, that's what I'd want to do.
You get to color outside the lines. When you're a hero, you have to be so perfect and proper, and you're not allowed to sidestep, which is cool with anti-heroes. But villain, man, that's awesome. I love villains. They're fun.
Yeah, outstanding. So you've got a couple of new films that are going to be coming out. Do you have release dates for Finding Nicole or Beneath Us? Do we know?
Not Beneath Us All and Finding Nicole has not yet. We just signed Beneath Us All with the same distributor who has Ash and Bone, and Ash and Bone is doing incredible right now. So we're hoping to see the same thing, but no date yet. We literally signed the agreement last week.
Oh, okay.
So it's that fresh. But we're looking at probably a summer release, unless we get. We were talking about potentially doing a limited theatrical, but in today's world, placements, everything. So if we end up getting an original somewhere, I think this film would probably do really well as an original. Literally, Sean is amazing. Maria Olsen from I Spit on Your Grave and Percy and the Olympians. She is incredible in it as well. Jan plays the Viking vampire. He's probably his best role. I've seen him since The People Under the Stairs or something like that. So yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about this one because you get that vampire feel, and we went the creature route, so it's not a traditional vampire, so to speak. I thought it was a lot of fun to play around with this, and it's more of a saga. It's very very pretty. The cinematography is probably the best I've ever done on that one. As far as Finding Nicole, it's not even completed yet.
Oh, okay.
I'm getting to see what should be final tomorrow with music and sound design and everything else. I'm probably going to have a bunch of notes, but we're really close to completing it.
And what can you tell us about Finding Nicole? What is it about?
It's a true story, right?
Yeah, it's based on a true story.
Yeah, it's a true story. It's a woman. Actually, it's really weird how this happened. But my lawyer also represented, because this woman that this happened to, she works with shelters and stuff. She has a thing called the Enough Initiative, which is a nonprofit that helps domestic violence victims. And I found out about her story because she was signing a deal with Netflix for a documentary on this that was supposed to be a part of the I'm a Stalker series. And I guess that when they were looking through the agreements, it was an all rights agreement. And my lawyer said, "Are you sure you want to give up all rights? If they're doing the documentary, shouldn't they just get the documentary rights?" So they talked about that, and they ended up getting that finalized. But my lawyer ended up putting me in connection with Nicole, who was the victim of domestic violence, and it was really bad. Like, she multiple times could have been, probably it's a miracle that she's still around.
Wow.
So it's a wild story. Inside Evil with Chris Cuomo came and covered it, and is one of their most popular episodes. But just a really tough story about domestic violence. And I really wanted to do this, and it's funny because my lawyer didn't know it at the time, but I grew up in a household with domestic violence. My stepdad was when he drank, he got violent, and I grew up with a lot of that in my house. And And I've been the guy who never said anything. I was always ashamed about it, and we couldn't really hang out and party with other people because it would end up in a fight, and we just avoided it all together, and we all walked on eggshells if we thought he was drinking, and we just grew up with all of that. And then after I became an adult, my mom and dad eventually separated and divorced, and he actually got himself back and is healthy and is taking care of himself and is a good dude now. But I grew up with all that baggage, and I've just stuffed it in a backpack and just holding it down up until now. So it was an important movie for me to make because Nicole had two sons, or has two sons, but they were there throughout all this, and I felt me making the film could give a little bit of perspective of her boys to this story, so that we get, her police reports and her journaling and everything else is kind of what made the film. I had a writer who wrote it and put it all together, but giving a little bit of a point of view from the kid's perspective at times, because it's a tough thing to grow up with. I wouldn't want him to hit my mom, so I would get in between, and then I'd get it, and it's just it's a crappy thing. And when you look statistically speaking, it's beyond epidemic. And to think that we have just allowed this to just keep happening is crazy to me, because it is something that we have to tackle and figure out how to do this. And one of the things that I loved about Nicole's way of paying back is she goes to primarily high schools and she talks to young people about the red flags of an abuser, but she also talks to the young men and helps them maybe identify things within themselves that maybe should be red flags to them, so that they can seek help and tackle themselves, so that they can be a better person to interact with on an emotional level in the future. And I think, I'm really excited about that, because it's so easy to just put the blame on the guy and then just throw it out with everything else. And I feel like that's never going to fix anything. We got to figure out how to stop it on both sides.
It's a
how
societal
to make
problem. You have to.
It is.
You have to any crime. You have to look at why does the crime happen, not just punishing the offender. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy. When I interviewed police officers about this leading up to this film, it sounds like this is as popular to them, or as popular as common to them, almost as traffic stops. It is really sad that this is a big part of what they do, is to deal with family disputes. Yeah. And so I don't know about Sweden, but in the U.S., not that long ago, realistically, a man beating his wife wasn't even a crime. Police didn't even get involved until, 40 years ago, I think?
Yeah.
So, So we've got a long way still as a society to deal with these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the same thing with kids.
Yeah.
They were getting beat up at school and then beat up by the parents, and we got to figure out how to solve things. I'm okay with fighting. I'm a fighter. I've fought my whole life. I'm cool with fighting, but it's two people that want to fight. Both of them want to fight. Yeah. And they should be somewhat evenly matched. Not a big brute, beating on a little woman or a little kid or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Well, that's a big. We brought everybody down now. We're talking about the fun thrillers and horror films, and then we brought everyone down to domestic abuse. We do that here often. We start out with something nice and then bring everyone down. Normally it's Josh doing it though. So guys, Josh, what questions do you have for Harley?
Well, I don't know. You guys pretty much covered anything that I was going to talk about. I did appreciate.
Nate's good at doing that.
This is where Josh freezes up and can't speak.
I just start talking and I can't stop. You guys have to interrupt me.
I did appreciate going back about your character in Ash and Bone, about how it wasn't just there was a whole lot more of the human side to it, as opposed to just because I'm more of a wait and see kind of guy too, and I kind of saw myself in that. It was like, shit or get off the pot, and it's just I'm usually shitting. So
Yeah.
That had to get one of those in here, didn't we?
I guess yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wasn't really a question, but I just kind of like that.
I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
That's important to a lot of people.
Yes.
Casey, what questions do you have?
Has anybody ever told you or your wife that she kind of resembles a young Jennifer Jason Leigh?
Oh, I see that.
Did you see that?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I kept thinking that when I saw her in Ash and Bone.
It's funny. I kind of see it when you say it.
Yeah, I didn't think that until you said it, but yeah, I've seen Casey in several films, and I kind of see that.
Yeah, and I would never have come up with it myself, but when you say it, I'm like, oh, you know what?
Yeah.
That is kind of true.
And then where did the name Painted Creek come from? I was curious.
So we live in a small town about 45 minutes north of Detroit, and in my subdivision is directly connected to Paint Creek Trail. And literally, I spend a lot of time mountain biking that trail. Nice. So that's where it came from. It's kind of our little getaway that's right next to our house.
What kind of mountain bike do you ride?
It's yellow.
That's a good answer.
I like that. I used to mountain bike quite a bit, but my knees are bad now, so I don't do it as much.
Oh, it is more like a long, steady decline out and a long, steady incline home. So it's not a mountain trail or anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a Schwinn though.
Oh, okay. It's a good bike. I like Schwinn.
Not bad.
Yeah. Casey, what else? You were about to
so the medium in Agramon's Gate, she kept calling people Cher. And what is that?
Oh, that's French.
Shah.
Shah?
Shah, yeah. So we wanted to get our characters' origins. This one was really, really interesting because we literally finally decided on everything for our characters about 3 weeks out, where she decided to be from New Orleans and Creole. So that's her dialect that she speaks. And I was obviously French who moved here. So that's what it's from. So Shah is it's almost or something like that. It's just in the lingo. But yeah, I do know what you mean though. She says something cha at the end of a lot of things. Yes.
Yep. Okay. Cool. And then also the ending seemed to be kind of set up for a sequel. Is there anything in the works on that, or any in the future possibly?
Well, so we were talking about it, and I think, in all honesty, the sequel will come on Ash and Bone, not Agramon's Gate. Agramon's Gate just did not do well enough. Right now, Ash and Bone, we are trending on Tubi as most popular horror. We have been literally for 2.5 months trending on Vudu, and now we're trending on Amazon Prime as well. So this film looked like it's going to do very well financially, and we have a really good sequel and prequel opportunities on this film. The sequel, obviously, with the survivors, and the prequel, obviously, will focus on the McKinley's origin. So, and that one is probably going to be the bloodiest mess we've ever done, because it just calls for it. If you listen to half of the dialogue, she don't care for her dad much. And that's good because her mom cut him with a Bowie knife. We're gonna have to show these things in the prequel. So it's gonna be a bloody mess, I'm sure.
Do you think we'll see a physical release of Ash and Bone? Will we get a Blu-ray? Is that going to be coming?
Yeah, I know Ash and Bone is on DVD, but
Is it on DVD? Okay.
Yeah, the Blu-ray I saw they have it in. It's annoying. It's in Egypt and UK so far.
Okay.
And I'm like, do I have to buy a region-free Blu-ray?
Right.
Can we just make one here? I think we have the factories.
Yeah, I hate it when things aren't coming. So, and these guys are well, actually Casey's worse than me. We are insane for physical media. We all collect the Blu-rays and the 4Ks.
Me too.
And it breaks my heart when things are on streaming. That's great. You get it to the masses on streaming, but give me the Blu-ray. Put it out there so I can buy it. I need to hold it and open it.
Please call them and tell them, because I'm with you on that.
Yeah, well, luckily DVD definitely still seems to be really popular, which is just crazy. I mean, it's been around for many years, but they're still selling like crazy. And then we love collecting the Blu-rays and the 4Ks and DVD if they don't have the Blu-ray available. But
that especially for us, we spend the time to shoot it in 4K. We spend the time to get the 5.1 Dolby Surround. It's like, if you're going to spend the money to do that, then give me an opportunity to actually watch it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
And plus that way, you can't have some corporation just take it away suddenly. Because that's the worst thing with streaming or even purchasing the digital copy. I know both Apple and Disney love to, every once in a while, just pull things that people have purchased. So
a question for you. So you're an actor. You've been in movies, and then you directed. What's the benefit of being a director who has the experience of being an actor? What do you prefer? Do you prefer acting or directing?
And does being an actor inform your methods for directing?
Yeah, no. So my blessing is definitely that I went the traditional route on acting. So I studied with acting coaches and learned the different methods and the different inspirations for them. And that gives me an advantage when it comes to dealing with actors, because anybody who deals with actors, have heard the saying, it's like herding cats. And it is true. Actors are so incredibly amazing at their craft, but they're often completely all over the place in other ways. So being able to tap into their energy, speak their language, and to make them understand what the goal is pretty important. So that's the advantage. As far as what I prefer, I don't know anymore. Playing a character is from a selfish perspective incredible, because it's the ultimate therapy, because I get to be somebody completely different than me, and I get to look at all kinds of problems through completely different eyes, which I learn a lot about myself from doing that, and I learn a lot about my character, and that broadens probably what I can play a little bit. So I love acting because it gives you, you get a break from being you, and that's kind of cool sometimes. Being a director, I never understood what the guy was doing up there. I'm like, these people all know how to play their instrument. They can put a metronome, you know what I mean? Like, this is, but I get it now, because directing is putting all of this stuff together. If you think about it, a swivel and some clay, you put that clay in the middle and you make a vase, right? Well, when you're a director, you make that vase with 100 hands.
Oh, I like that.
So you shape and do all this stuff, but not with your own hands, everybody else's hands. So you have to tell them what you want. So directing is really communicating. Is to communicate your vision to each person so that they can maximize that in their role or in their position, whether they're a cinematographer or a gaffer lighting the set, or an actor. Sometimes it's about, I know from an acting perspective, every now and then an actor, we don't shoot stuff sequentially. So we shoot out all the scenes for a location or all the scenes for, when you have named talent in. And sometimes you can forget, you usually don't forget who you are, but you may forget where you are in the story and where you're coming from and where you're going. And those things are crucially important when you're in the middle of that scene, because it's going to give your character the arc for the scene, which eventually completes the arc for the film. And I think being an actor helps you be a director, because you remember that constantly, because as an actor, you're supposed to remember that constantly. So I love that whole thing of making that vase with 100 hands, because it is a liability to have 100 hands, but you can do things you could never do with 2 or 3 pairs of hands.
Nice. I like that. So we know what the next 2 films are. Do you know what's coming next after those?
We are right now in development, funding our next one. We have had 3 names on this script. We are on version 2, and it was called Dependency, and now it's called Alone in a Room. But we're tackling mental health. We're tackling opioid addiction, and those are our 2 main themes for our next one. It is going to be horror. It is going to be a really unique mixture of things. I can tell you the inspirations for this would be Jacob's Ladder, maybe Identity, and playing around in those realms. This definitely has it's a Rubik's Cube, so it's the kind of film we're really testing with this one, because with today's audience, they halfway sit with a phone and between the TV and the this is the kind of movie like if you're doing that, you're going to miss too many things, because this thing moves too quickly. The script right now is incredible. Brett is the writer again, who wrote Beneath Us All and Ash and Bone, and it's a really, really good story, and it's definitely the scariest script for me to tackle from a directing standpoint, because this one is it's about execution all the way, because it's written in a way that there's only so many ways you can tell it, because it's incredibly specific and the transitions are sharp. If you remember Stranger Things, it was one of them things that each scene took you to the next scene seamlessly, and that's kind of how this one moves. It moves in that realm of very, very smooth transitions between flashbacks, where we are now, and then the mental state of the person that the story is about, which is you're coming off of drugs, and how much of it's really there.
Now, as far as directing and acting, what is your favorite genre? Horror, action, comedy? What are you drawn to?
I don't think I have a favorite genre, although I would say a psychological thriller is one of my favorites to watch. But I love well-made horror. I love action thrillers. So that's my happy place. But I did a couple of films. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're called Bennett's Song and A Bennett Song Holiday. And they're family kind of rom-com stories. And they're very like soft and cuddly. And I literally had a blast doing them. And we have tons of little kids and animals and all the things that you're warned not to do when you direct is do not. Yes, kids and animals, absolutely. So, but I really enjoyed it. I could not make that. If you said this, give me one genre, and that's the only genre that you will make for the rest of your career, I would say that'll be in the thriller horror realm. That is definitely my happy place. Anywhere from psychological thriller. I don't know if you've seen a movie of mine called Abstruse.
Yes.
But
yes.
I've had a lot of people say that's almost a horror movie, and it's not a horror movie because it's a horror movie, but it's a horror movie because the suspense is pretty dreadful. For a very long period of time, yeah. And there are some really good jump moments and some really good suspense. But that's probably, and then go all the way to. I have a script that I wrote called Animus, and it is I Spit on Your Grave on steroids times steroids.
Wow.
Wow.
We did our first podcast on I Spit on Your Grave. We all love that movie. Yeah. It's a hard watch for sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That was probably probably the worst movie to do our first podcast about. That was harsh.
Yeah, you just start with a Serbian film. Start light.
Oh my god! I've watched it.
Yeah, right. You've seen The Iceberg, I guess.
Yes.
Well, Harley, I want to thank you so much for coming to talk with us tonight. Any chance we can get you back on another time to talk about the next?
I would love to.
Out? Outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially after we get the Beneath Us All out. Yeah. I really think, as well as Ash and Bone is doing, I think Beneath Us All is significantly better. I think a lot of people are gonna really be into it, especially if you like my style of storytelling. It's a little bit more gruesome than Ash and Bone in ways, a little more of the kills and whatnot, but it still has that storytelling aspect of you going for a ride with characters, caring about them, and what I like is you take a real situation and then you stick it in and you add a vampire to the mix. So that's how you get really good stuff. Yeah. So I'd love to.
Okay, outstanding.
You've been amazing. I love having you on, and my dream is if I can make it happen, I'll have to see what I can do, some bribing to get you and Sean Whalen on.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. I mean,
he is incredible in Beneath Us All.
He messages me.
Did you see the trailer? Did you see the trailer?
No, I have not. I will be watching it after this, though.
Yeah, check it out afterwards. Yeah. He's fantastic.
Yeah, he messages me every now and then. He mostly ignores me. I'm a lunatic. But if we could get him and you
when you say he messages you, Joey, please leave me alone. I don't know you. That's the message.
That's mostly how it goes. I mean, he sent me an autograph, so I mean that's something.
Yeah. But he's a very cool dude.
I would love to have you and Sean Whalen. If we can make that happen, I would love to have you both on.
If we can do that for when we release Beneath Us All, I would love it.
Oh, we would
that'd be awesome.
We would love to do
Let's aim for that.
I'll reach out to him and we'll make it happen. I'll reach out to Sean Whalen and we'll make it happen.
All right. Well, thanks again. Can't wait to talk to you again. We're going to do our little wrap-up. This has been Bloodfest, the podcast. If you like what you see or hear here, give us a like, subscribe, maybe tell your friends about it. You can find us on Twitter at Bloodfest Pod. You can find us on YouTube at Bloodfest Podcast. You can find us on Facebook, Pinterest. We're probably in a magazine under your bed. So anyway, guys, for Casey, Josh, Joey, our guest Harley, and me, Nate, Catchphrase. Roll us out.